I'm Lance Pry, and this is USA Radio News.
Chronicles of Hope is essential reading for seekers of inspiration and spiritual empowerment. This series offers nourishment for those on a path of increased awareness at this challenging time. Inspired by higher sources of wisdom, Chronicles of Hope delivers messages to lift your spirit with a roadmap of hope and guidelines for living a life of expanded consciousness. The guides offer powerful insight for mental, emotional, and spiritual growth at this critical tipping point for humanity. The message is clear. We must change. We have the power to raise our vibrational energy individually and collectively before it's too late. I am Lois Herman, author of the best-selling Chronicles of Hope series and host of the Inspiring Hope radio show at WSMN.live or 95.3 FM. You can find me at loisherman.com or chroniclesofhope.net.
The views and opinions of the following show do not reflect those of WSMN, its owners, and/or associates.
Welcome to Inspiring Hope with Lois Herman, a leading expert in professional coaching, clinical hypnosis, and energy clearing. Lois is an award-winning author of Chronicles of Hope. She has decades of experience in advanced hypnosis techniques, has conducted highly effective success coaching programs that have helped clients discover ways to achieve success, empower themselves, their families, as well as holistic practitioners to expand their practices. Get ready to be empowered with your host, Lois Herman.
Good morning and welcome to Inspiring Hope. I am your host, Lois Herman, and I'm here to inspire you with positive messages and celebrate people who are making a difference in our world. When we focus our thoughts and energies on truth, honesty, and integrity, we create powerful shifts that cause us to be more positive and peaceful. As we lift our energy, we empower everyone around us. If we each do what we can to make small shifts in awareness, we create ripples of hope. Join us as catalysts for positive change for our families, our communities, and our world at large. I hope you're inspired by today's show. And today we are sharing the 5th session from Chronicles of Hope, the Collective. Andrew Periale is with me to read the insight from the Spirit of the Universe. The universal messages for humanity are simple yet specific enough that we must pay attention. One of the important teachings from the universe is that we must create our sacred space on a regular basis to keep our energy clear and protected, especially when we're working together in groups. You can find my audio and video recordings of this at my website, loisherman.com, and on my Lois Herman YouTube channel. Please join me now in this clearing exercise. Let's start by closing our eyes, unless, of course, you're driving, and visualize, imagine, or think about 4 columns or pillars of light. You may choose to think of them in the directions north, south, east, and west. These beautiful, shimmering, glimmering columns of golden white light dive deep into Mother Earth and extend far up to Father Sky. Now imagine 4 more columns in between the others, so we're surrounded by an octagon, 8 columns of glistening light. Now let's imagine the walls of shimmering light connecting all of these magnificent columns with a foundation of light underneath and a magical dome of light overhead. And next imagine that all of these walls of light are covered in a shiny, mirrored, reflective coating that allows the positive in and deflects anything negative, transmutes it, and returns it as positive. On the outside of our sacred space, let's invite the violet flame to surround us. Imagine a purpley mist surrounding and protecting us, keeping us in stealth mode, invisible to any outside distraction. We can even imagine a high-pitched vibrational hum or a high-frequency energy vibe on the outside of everything, again distracting anything harmful. On the inside of our amazing sacred space, let's invite the violet flame to transmute anything negative and in and around us that we may have picked up along the way. Now that we've prepared our sacred space, let's invite our personal guides to be with us. We may choose to invite Mother Gaia, the spirit of Mother Earth, into our space, along with archangels or Jesus, Mary, angels, or whomever you feel called to be with you on this day. Make sure these are spirits of the light. Ask them to help you with protection, healing, and empowerment across all levels: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, psychic, social, professional, financial, environmental, technological, relational, political, educational, and more. That we are all called together as one, setting the intention for this day to be filled with hope, peace, and joy. You are listening to Inspiring Hope with Lois Herman at WSMN 1590.live or 95.3 FM. Please help me share these messages. Watch the videos on my YouTube channel or website, loisherman.com, and join our Hope community for support and inspiration at chroniclesofhope.net. Please enjoy the messages in this beloved song.
May it be an evening star shines down upon you. May it be when darkness falls, your heart will be true. You walk a lonely road. Oh, how far you are from May it be the shadows gone will fly away. May it be you journey on to light the day. When the night is overcome, you may rise to find the sun.
Chronicles of Hope, The Collective, Book 2, Session 5. I am the spirit of the universe. All living things are part of me. Terrans never truly realize how much each of their lives affects each other because they do not feel what each other feels. Universe. Intention. The day that Gary, Paul, and I met to do another informational session was also the day of a global prayer for universal peace. The prayer had been started by Tibetan monks and was to circumnavigate the globe with people joining in at specific times in different regions around the world. The intention was to surround our planet with continuous prayer for 24 hours. Coincidentally, our team was meeting at the exact moment that our time zone was scheduled to join in this universal prayer. We agreed that it was important to participate in this collective prayer as it was in alignment with our own intention to help our precious planet and all that live in and on her. Since we needed to join at our designated time, we really didn't have the opportunity to discuss much of the prior session. At this point, I knew meeting Samael was very meaningful, yet it wasn't until I digested the message more thoroughly later on that I truly understood its full interpretation. Looking back, it's as if we were not intended to have this discussion until we were better able to discern the messages. We actually had no expectations or preconceived thoughts as to who might be channeled through Gary today, and decided to allow the collective to send whomever they felt best to speak with us. We were ready to begin the session, uniting in prayer with the rest of the people of the world. So I began the session with an invitation for Gary, Paul, and myself to join in the collective prayer for universal peace. Our intention is to inspire all people to come together, to care for each other, and to care for our beautiful living planet. As we join in this prayer for world peace, we would like to allow Gary to relax into this moment. We are grateful that the spirit who inhabits Gary's body has elected to come to Earth to assist in saving humanity. We would like to join in the prayer for universal energy with a desire to heal our planet Earth. Let us take a moment to join with others of like mind that we may contribute our own heartfelt energy. Allowing Gary to relax into this moment, we join together in the universal prayer for world peace. After a few moments of silence, I start the session by speaking to Gary. Who is coming through today, Gary?
I am the spirit of the universe made manifest. You spoke my name, and I am here. Why have you called me?
Well, thank you for coming. We've joined in prayer with others around the world to invite and envision peace. And we're concerned about the future of our world and have been beseeched by the wise ones of the collective to share their messages with all humans on this planet. Our mission is to help save humanity from imminent destruction and to inspire hope, peace, and love. Is there anything you can advise us? Is there anything you can share that will help us with this mission?
All life in the universe is tied together. All life in the universe is brother and sister to each other. When conflict arises, it is as though family were fighting within itself. I am aware of some of the issues associated with Terra. They are common issues throughout my very fabric. I would tell you that you are all the same. Not only do you share a common physical ancestor, all life on any planet shares common physical ancestry. Terrans have not yet realized that life exists throughout my whole fabric. Terrans need to understand that they are not alone. They need to know that they are part of a greater family. You need to use that information to help bring them together. Terrans are very isolated as individuals. The immortal parts of themselves do not coalesce with other individuals, as happens on worlds without conflict. Terrans view themselves as being isolated and alone. This is not the case. They need to learn to share themselves with others. Terrans never truly realize how each of their lives affects each other because they do not feel what each other feels. They believe that their actions occur in isolation. That is not the case. They need to learn that every action they take and every thought they make affects all those around them. When individuals learn to feel what their neighbors feel, when they experience the pain that they cause others, the natural desire will be to avoid inflicting that pain. That is the true path to peace.
There are many people on this planet who have so much hate inside of them. How do we help change that hate and inspire people to be at peace?
It is one that comes from isolation, the thought that they are alone. Terrans need to learn to share not only the physical world around them, but their feelings and emotions, even their thoughts. The non-corporeal part, that is, the spirit of each human, strives to communicate directly with the non-corporeal parts of all the other people around them. But the environment in which most Terrans are brought up discourages this from birth. The result is that Terrans as individuals are, in fact, more isolated than individuals need to be. By not being able to experience what others around them experience, by believing that others somehow have more, this promotes feelings of jealousy and greed that can ultimately lead to hatred. There are many belief systems on Terra, and they are oddly mutually exclusive. Yet the Terrans never seem to notice that all of their descriptions of what they think the universe truly is cannot possibly be right, when, in fact, most of them are quite far from the true reality. It would not be possible for me to describe myself, the universe. No corporeal mind can truly conceive of the infinite. But by breaking down the barriers between individuals, by allowing Terran minds to share information directly, by striving toward the common consciousness, it would help each individual see that the people around them are not so very different. Much hatred is based on the belief of difference, that another individual is deserving of hatred because they believe differently. With true communication comes the realization that differences are not so great, so that the hatred dissipates. It is difficult to hate someone who you view as being similar. Closer individuals believe themselves to be brothers. Not only does that reduce the cause of hatred, but makes it more difficult for the individual to hate. Many conflicts on Terra are based on a group of individuals having been painted as different, providing a focus for hatred. By removing the belief in that dissimilarity, you remove the focus of the hatred.
Thank you for that explanation. If I understand correctly, the first beings, the Unquietus, are your children. Is that correct?
In a sense, they came of my own energy. My consciousness came about at the same time. In a sense, they are more my brethren than children. They came from my energy, but prior to their creation, I was only energy. There was no conscious thought. My own conscience, or my consciousness, is a representation of all conscious living things. You might say that I am the sum of all the consciousness that exists within me. So, I am the sum of the first 8, the Unquietus, and I am the sum of that 8 and the next 512, the children. My consciousness grew again with the next 32,768, their children's children. Once planets began to form with spirits of their own that were similar in that they were the sum of the consciousness of the creations on those worlds, my consciousness expanded again. Still today, parts of my energy go in to produce new spirits that over time gain consciousness and again become part of my own. That is why all living things are kin to each other, because all living things are part of me, as I am part of all living things. I do not exist independently. I am the sum of my parts.
And we are the sum of our parts as individual humans, and the sum of the parts of humanity and the collective as a whole. Is that correct?
Yes. You exist as individuals. You exist as parts of collectives. You exist as part of the consciousness of your own world. Terra's conscious spirit is Gaia, the name by which you know her. Her consciousness is then part of mine, sister to many worlds that have their own conscious spirits. Not all worlds do.
There are so many questions I'd like to ask. Speaking for humanity, what has gone wrong with our civilization? Is hate the main issue?
Hate is a symptom, a cause. It, in turn, becomes a cause for the actions that occur. It is the isolation that Terrans feel that causes the hatred. Breaking down the barriers between individuals, allowing them to experience each other's thoughts and feelings, that is the cure.
I think I understand. We're concerned with presenting this material to the world. We've been told by some of the collective that we need to vet carefully in order to place this information in the right hands. Can you advise us on that?
It is the same solution. Remove your own feeling of isolation. When you see into the spirit of the people with you, around you, then you will know without any shadow of a doubt, without any conscious thought, with whom you may share whatever you wish. someone has to be first, to be willing to drop the barriers isolating them from another. When you are well matched and you trust and love one another enough, you don't need barriers between you. Yet none of you actually realizes, none of you understands the methods by which you can allow non-corporeal parts of your existence to truly become one. The spirits that you refer to as the Unquietus's children's children, they have the knowledge because they existed in both corporeal and non-corporeal form. They know how to drop their barriers when they leave the body and exist more closely to my own consciousnesses. Any of the children's children can teach you how to do that while remaining in corporeal form.
The universe is speaking of having the children's children who have been in human form, like Jesus or Lao Tzu, to teach us how to blend our spirits together collectively while we are in physical form.
It is a process not without risk. It is a process not without discomfort. You will be opening yourselves up primarily to each other, but also to any free spirit near you. You will need to protect yourselves against unwanted intrusion. When you open yourselves up, your light will shine more brightly and will be visible across dimensions. This has happened only rarely on Terra before, and never by design. Your light will show brightly to those around you who desire the same change that you seek, who will respond to a feeling of openness. If you are open to them, they will, without conscious thought, become open to you. You will be the first ripple in a very large pond. But any ripple, no matter how small, will eventually reach all the way to the borders of that pond. As more and more people around you become open, it will spread. You have the opportunity and the ability to make the moral change on Gaia. It's up to you to decide whether you want to do it.
You are talking about us coming together to shine our light collectively to lead the way?
Yes.
Thank you. We understand. I do have a question about clearing the path of negativity. Would it be prudent for us to clear negative energies from specific people who are causing more hate on this planet? Or would it be more prudent for us to shine the positive light? We could do either.
You will become a beacon. Those around you who want to experience the positive energy will. However, you will attract non-physical beings that seek out any source of energy. You have the skills to protect yourself, but you must be vigilant with exercising these skills, or you will become burdened.
In Book 1, the Unquietus gave us explanations on non-physical beings, such as low-level entities that are from other dimensions, and are attracted to both positive and negative energies as food sources. The Unquietus also gave us information on the protective bubble to use for protection and the sacred space. They're both detailed at the end of each book.
It would help make your process easier if other Terrans had some conscious desire to want to experience what you are going to show them. It is possible to make your path clearer by, as you say, removing some of the hatred. There are lessons that you can teach to help people to be more thoughtful of their own thoughts and actions, to not be so reactive and defensive. Clearing your path in the physical dimension will help clear your path in the non-physical dimension. You can simplify your task in that way.
Thank you for that clarification.
I am pleased to be of service.
Is there anything else which we should ask? Is there anything specific that we need to know?
What I see within you is that you have all that you need. You have been granted audiences with the oldest spirits within me. Listen to those words and pass them on. Take them into your own heart and try to get others to do the same. Most importantly, your instincts are good. You need to trust them. You have no need to doubt yourself in any way. I cannot stay any longer.
Thank you so much. We will do our best.
You can only do your best.
We certainly will. I bring the session to a close by encouraging the spirit of Gary to come back gently into his physical body, pleasantly, softly, quietly, and peacefully on this day and in this time. As Gary started to return to awareness, he expressed feeling like someone was screaming inside of his mind as if his head was spinning. I instructed Gary to breathe gently into the noise and offered to share some Reiki with him. As he was struggling to return to alertness, he moaned in pain, asserting it was an odd experience like none he had felt ever before. He felt as if his hair was burning while his mind was chattering with a loud, energetic hum. He sensed it wasn't one roaring tone, it was thousands of intense voices, somewhat like a chorus. They were all saying the same thing at the same time. He said it was similar to hearing people in a football stadium chanting together, just a bit out of sync. He wondered if he had been hearing the chants of people around the world who had joined in the universal prayer. For several minutes, Gary continued to hear the echoes of many voices like a murmur coming together, yet he could not pick out a single voice. He seemed to have tapped in to the collective of universal consciousness. His mind opened to hear all the people who were praying together. Even though the words sounded different, their intent was the same. Their hearts were joined in a collective effort for world peace. Once we realized this, I invited Gary to relax into the chatter, and his pain slowly subsided. While still in somewhat of a trance state, Gary expressed that he felt very expanded, like he was much larger than his physical self. As I continued to encourage him to calm his mind, he then saw numerous faces looking at him. They were repeating words, though their lips didn't match. They were chanting something he couldn't process, continuing to echo in his head. I asked our guides to help quiet his thoughts and fully integrate him back into his physical body on Earth. Suddenly, the voices changed. Gary commented they were speaking in a language that humans couldn't understand, and were now smiling at him in a comforting way. Finally, Gary relaxed into his body. Then he suddenly cried out loudly, expressing an intense feeling of pain, of being all alone, and that this might be like the collective pain of humanity. I instructed him to remove the feeling from his body, that it was not his to bear. As he removed it, he described the color as black. I asked Gary to wrap the black in a bubble of light and called on Archangel Michael to assist with his healing, to take away the feeling of isolation and bring the feeling of connectedness to each other and to all that is. As Gary eased into a state of peace, several archangels, including Archangel Samael, appeared and surrounded all of us with healing light. As the archangels lifted the feeling of isolation, I continued sending Reiki through Gary to help ground him and help him feel the soft, warm glow of gentle light. We felt it surround us and move through us all. Gary returned to full awareness as I talked him gently into this present day and time. Although he had no memory of what had transpired in this session, he conveyed that he felt a huge expansiveness while I was doing Reiki on him. The feeling of loss from isolation hurt his heart tremendously. He was shivering, shaking, stating he felt excessively cold, that his hands were freezing. We helped to warm himself with a hot cup of tea and allowed him to enjoy some dark chocolate. As he relaxed and began releasing the intense emotions of the session, he asserted, "You don't realize how truly lonely you are until you are not." Reflection. In this fascinating session, we experienced the incredible magnitude and power of collective thought and prayer. As the three of us joined in a global prayer for world peace, we were shocked that the spirit of the universe spontaneously came through Gary to speak with us. Of course, it made complete sense. We had gone to the session with an openness to share our collective energy for world peace and tapped into the actual energy of the spirit of the universe. This energy was so expansive that it interfered with our recording devices. From our usual video camera to recording apps on 2 cell phones, nothing worked. Thankfully, an audio software program I had running on my computer as a backup recorded it all. Communicating with this powerful spiritual energy through Gary was similar to conversing with the Unquietus in Book 1. At times, the universe momentarily glanced at me. Otherwise, it showed very little facial expression or had any physical movement. The voice was soft and slow, with frequent pauses, as if to purposefully choose the correct translation for our Terran language. It was unique to have our planet referred to by the name Terra, and Terrans as her inhabitants. Also similar to the Unquietus, the spirit of the universe was only able to spend around 20 minutes with us. Others of the collective that were more closely matched to Gary's vibrational energy spent a greater amount of time with us. However, in this short dialogue with the spirit of the universe, we gained grand insight. We learned that the Unquietus actually came from the energy of the universe. Initially, the universe was only energy, so the Unquietus collective consciousness coalesced about the same time. The universe represents all conscious living things. It's the sum of all of our consciousness. So all beings of the collective, all of humanity, all living beings on all planets make up the consciousness of the universe. And there are new spirits who are created who are also part of the universe. We are all one, and the universe itself is the sum of all. The universe reinforced that all life on our planet is interconnected. We are brothers and sisters to each other. We exist as individuals, yet are all part of the consciousness of Gaia, the conscious spirit of our planet. As we realize that we're all part of each other, we should be compelled to treat each other without bias, and know that one is not better than another. We're also part of a larger family of life across the universe. We are truly never alone on Earth. We are one collective whole, one civilization called humanity. When the universe speaks of isolation, we may consider it as separation. Many people think of themselves as separate, being from everything else, from each other, from the animals, from the trees, from our Mother Earth, and separate from whatever God they might call on. This way of thinking is fundamentally misguided. How many people think of themselves as different, less than, not enough, or inferior? The feeling of separateness is what causes prejudice, judgment, bias, wars, and ultimately may be the death of the human race. How many people have given up on prayer, refused to connect with something outside of themselves, or failed to express gratitude for what they have? What about those who do pray to a mysterious God who is far away, up in the sky, separate from and greater than them? In fact, when you pray, you are really communicating with your wise mind, your higher self, the part of you that is connected with the infinite or divine. And prayer can be as simple as appreciating a gesture, a sunset, a rainbow, or the song of a bird. Life and everything in existence, seen and unseen, is part of an intricate web of the universe. We're not separate from, but rather part of the infinite. I am not separate from you. You are not separate from me. My energy and your energy, my spirit and your spirit are together. We are indeed one. Primitive civilizations knew this. Native cultures knew this. When the universe speaks of isolation, the word separate seems to be more applicable. When we are separate from each other, from communication with divine sources, and separate from connection with nature, we become isolated and feel alone. Our hope in human survival is that we come together to be included with and part of one another and all that is. Our modern way of life has caused us to be particularly isolated and alone, which creates division. Our dependence on technology has intensified our isolation. While we seemingly connect with others on social media, the absence of physical contact is problematic. When we allow ourselves to share with others, we realize how interconnected we really are. Each life affects another. When you smile at someone, that simple action creates a ripple effect that may positively shift their entire outcome based on that one brief moment in time. Every interaction with another creates momentum in one direction or another, whether positive or negative. Unfortunately, at the end of the day, we usually remember the negative things that people have said or done. In actuality, we should focus on the good things we experience throughout the day. The universe's messages seem perfectly timed for our here and now. This reflection is being written as COVID-19, the pandemic, is sweeping the world, exacerbating the effects of isolation among many who are in quarantine with little or no touch or physical contact. Many are feeling alone and isolated, filled with despair, anger, blame, and anguish. Others are seizing this as an opportunity to simplify, slow down, spend quality time in nature with family or with self. When you look at today's crisis of isolation from a broader perspective, the takeaway for all of us, be it positive or negative, will influence whatever we do. It will also influence whether they shift and awaken, or whether they drop into anger and refuse to change. Those who hold on to the anger are the ones that Samael refers to as the lost spirits who, in the end, will wish they had made different choices when they had the chance. Now is our chance to choose. The positive side of technology is that it connects people. Though virtually, technology allows us greater access to each other, accentuating our similarities and creating common consciousness. During this shelter-in-place period, many benefited tremendously from the use of technology. We stayed connected with friends while at home, continued to work and learn via computer programs. We had online doctor and other appointments, and even tapped into the positive practices such as meditation, yoga, and spiritual journeys. With the world at our fingertips, technology opens virtual doors, visiting people of countries and cultures many could have never visited in person. Connecting with others virtually, we have the opportunity to see how closely we are related, to share our similarities, and appreciate our unique differences. Having traveled extensively throughout my lifetime, I recognize the uniqueness of each country and culture with distinctly different sights, sounds, and smells of the land and attitudes of the people. Our similarities are profound, as are our differences. Yet unquestionably, being there in person, I could more fully appreciate the experience and relate to situational divergences and the historic imprint of each culture. However, technology can have a double-edged sword. We are at the mercy of whoever is sharing the information from a potentially biased point of view. While we have the capacity for expanded knowledge and connection, we are also exposed to the potential for confusion and fear. A major challenge of technology is that it can be readily used to create instantaneous demonstration of global pain via our media outlets. Although negativity, anger, and rage do exist, they're often misrepresented, sensationalized, or amplified. While generating increased fear, hysteria, and panic, observers succumb to desperation, division, and increased isolation. Based on human perception, some perceive at what appears to be lack in our world because it's vastly different than their norm. They feel angry at groups or sorry for those who appear to have less, when in fact, people in cultures who live simpler lives may actually be happier because they don't have all the external pressure or distractions. By the same token, some who live in impoverished countries assess those who live in what they consider to be rich countries with anger and disdain. They consider wealth to be so desirable without understanding the added burden of required performance that accompanies attaining even middle-class standards in many countries. Each sees the other from their personal viewpoint, their lens of life. Communal feelings are exacerbated by the intention of the person providing the information via technology. Ultimately, we must come from a place of truth. As we remove the tinted glasses and attempt to experience what others may be feeling, we can more clearly see their viewpoint. It's all about perception. A person's perception becomes their reality. What someone needs to understand is their reality is not necessarily shared by others. How can we allow ourselves to tap into another's reality with open-mindedness and come from a place of mutual respect? As we remove the deep residual anger and refuse to be swayed by others' opinions, can we be willing to listen to another without bias. Only then will we have the opportunity to truly come together as one. One of the main teachings of this session is how anger and hate many humans express can be caused by the feelings of isolation. Hate may be a symptom of isolation, which could cause division. The sense of being different fosters notions of jealousy that might lead to hatred and fear. We exist in a fear-based culture where even our children learn to be wary of everyone and everything. With electronic devices being the main instrument of touch today, have humans lost physical and emotional touch with each other? In schools, our children are exposed to a variety of negative emotions and power struggles among peers. I see many of these difficult challenges working with my young clients. Based on traumas and tragedy in schools, many of our children leave the safety of home with an intense fear of the unknown. Our schools have often become like prisons, locked down with children expressing feelings of being unsafe. From this, they learn to exist in isolation and fear the person sitting next to them. As a result, they escape into electronic devices for fun, distraction, or to connect with friends. This exacerbates the feeling of isolation and adds to other complications such as bullying, which causes even more withdrawal and fear. Emotions can be compared to a keyboard, with one end expressing happiness, peace, and joy, while the other expresses sadness, fear, or anger. It is healthy to fully experience and express the entire spectrum of emotions. When someone is sad, when something sad happens, like the death of a loved one or a pet, it is absolutely appropriate to feel sadness. When something good happens and we want to celebrate, we should feel free to do so with joy. For optimum wellness, it is important to play the entire range of the keyboard of emotions. Many live their lives with such fear, they become numb to their emotions and develop strong coping skills to exist in a world that is bombarded with chronic negativity. Making ourselves emotionally numb can lead to destructive habits as we try to avoid underlying feelings of sadness, depression, anxiety, anger, or hate. Some reach for substances to ameliorate the pain, which causes additional health issues on all levels: mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. In this last minute, I would like to acknowledge that it is difficult to comprehend the expansive power of the universe available to us. When we tap into this power together, the potential exists for magnitudes of change. This can happen if we are willing to drop the barriers of isolation, then trust and love each other enough to allow our spiritual beings to truly unite as one. The spirits of the collective can be called on to help us in this process, as they understand existence in both physical and spiritual forms. As we allow ourselves to come together as one, we can call on the universe in prayer and call on each other to support each other. Be grateful, appreciate our friendship, our kinship, the beautiful planet we live on. Because there is a force in the universe which, if we permit it, will flow through us and create miraculous results. Mahatma Gandhi. Until next time, look up, stay positive, and be the light in someone's day. God bless.
WSMN 1590. WSMN 95.3 FM Nashua. Listen, watch, and stream at WSMN.